I don't believe revenge is a dish best served cold. It's a dish served slowly, with surgical elegance, ensuring every bite is savored by the one consuming it. It is the only way to atone for 12 years of silence. If you're still here, don't just watch. Subscribe. You'll want to hear the rest. I was there, standing in the middle of their manufactured bliss. James Walker's living room in Chestnut Hill smelled of pine, new leather, and unshakable certainty. It was the same scent I remembered from 12 years ago, the warm, comforting aroma of old money that sealed secrets tight. The late winter twilight filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting a bleak, cerulean hue across the damask wallpaper. Outside, the snow was falling in fine needles, and I could hear the muffled silence that cocooned Boston. James, in the center of the room, was the definition of a man who never had to apologize for anything. His tweed suit was flawless, his hair silver but thick, styled with tedious precision. He was laughing, a loud booming laugh, his head thrown back, the crystal of his Scotch glass catching the faint, glittering lights of the Christmas tree. Beside him, Olivia, his wife, wore that polished, stretched smile that declared, "I know who I am, and you are not it." Her enormous emerald ring flashed like a cold fire on her hand. They were preparing for the annual family photograph. It was the yearly ritual, the perfect pose snapshot, mailed to their wide circle of friends in embossed cards to prove that, despite the passing decade, the Walker dynasty remained solid, eternally united under the patriarch's wing. "Thomas, did you set the timer?" James asked, his voice carrying just enough to override the gentle crackling of the fire. Thomas Clark, Sophie's husband, fussed with his phone, his golden retriever-like helpfulness grating in its eagerness. Sophie, my former best friend, stood near the tree. She had that same distant, dreamy look she wore the day we met, back in 2011, when life was still just an unkept summer promise. I lingered near the entrance to the parlor, subtly adjusting the fine knit of my black cashmere sweater. I had given myself a new name, Evelyn Chase. I'd changed my hair color, shed the few pounds of grief that had anchored the old me, and spent 5 years in London perfecting an education that made me appear utterly harmless, yet mortally precise. I was no longer Chloe Turner. Chloe Turner had died, one July evening, with my little sister. Henry Mitchell, James's nephew, was the only one who wasn't quite smiling. He stood slightly apart, near the expansive built-in library shelves. Henry. He had always been the weak link, the boy broken by alcohol and a guilt that no amount of money could ever fully erase, though his uncle had certainly tried. He looked at me. Our eyes met over the rim of James's glass, and his expression momentarily froze. No recognition, just a slight disturbance, like the passage of a shadow. He couldn't remember me. He absolutely mustn't remember me. I drifted smoothly toward the group, a subtle, barely there smile playing on my lips. I needed to be in the frame. The world needed to see the interloper, even if it didn't yet understand the threat I represented. "Shall I take the picture if you like?" I offered, my voice a whisper of exquisite softness, perfect for cutting through the varnish. James turned to me, his glass half raised. "Ah, Evelyn, what a splendid idea. Do join us, my dear." "I am not, my dear. I am the blade you forgot in the scabbard." I took Thomas's phone. The metal casing was cold in my hand. The flash blinked once, then a second time, preparing the lens. I watched them arrange themselves. James and Olivia, solid as granite. Sophie's body pressed against her compliant husband. Perfection. The tableau he had purchased at the price of blood. Flashback. The smell of rain hitting hot asphalt. It was summer, 2013. A muggy, suffocatingly hot summer on Cape Cod. Amelia, 16, wore the little yellow sundress I had always hated, but which she adored because it made her look like a wild daisy. She'd borrowed my ancient bicycle to go fetch ice cream. I was 18. I was sitting on the porch, arguing with Sophie about college applications. The sound wasn't that of an accident. It was a sharp noise, A horrible crunch followed by a silence that stretched too long. I ran. I ran into the gathering darkness, the air thick with the salty perfume of the ocean. When I arrived, there were two things: the mangled, unrecognizable bicycle and a massive dark sedan stopped haphazardly across the road. A Walker car, James Walker's sleek corporate cruiser, and then the single shoelace of Amelia's sneaker, alone on the tarmac. The rest, the rest was obscured by the first violent downpour of the summer. I saw Henry. He had stumbled out of the car, his shirt already soaked through with rain, and perhaps something else. His eyes were wide, bloodshot. Fear hadn't yet sobered him. Chloe. I never forgot the sound of my name on his lips, a hissed whisper of pure panic. I never forgot what I saw behind him, in the passenger seat, a half-empty bottle of scotch. A few hours later, James Walker arrived. No ambulance, no police, no tears. Just a calm James, with eyes colder than his wife's emerald. He didn't look at Amelia. He looked at the car. He looked at Henry. Then he looked at me, Chloe Turner, the penniless witness, the girl whose testimony could dismantle an empire. "You saw nothing, Chloe," he told me. His voice wasn't a threat. It was a simple statement of fact, a law of physics. It was the bike. The brakes failed. A tragedy. A tragedy we will manage together like a family. He offered me a check. I tore it up. It was the only act I performed that night that I was ever proud of. I told him I would report him. He just smiled. And who will believe the little sister? Chloe, look around you. There is no one else. There was a police report eventually, but it was classified as a fatal bicycle accident. Mechanical failure. The Walker firm made Henry disappear from Boston for 6 months, just long enough for the dust to settle. It made the witness, the scotch, and the horrible truth vanish from the record. Return to the present. James's smile was so expansive, it crinkled at the corners of his eyes. He held his half-empty glass, satisfaction coursing through his veins. A little further to the right, Thomas. Perfect. They were aligned before the great spruce, their faces illuminated by the twinkling fairy lights. Henry was there too, compelled to join the charade. He was sober, married, rehabilitated, the price of his redemption being his eternal silence. I watched him. The guilt. It was a fine mist in his eyes, something he could never quite wipe away, the only living proof of my ongoing heartbreak. I lifted the phone to frame the shot. The lens captured perfection. The varnish, the frozen smiles, Olivia's ring, Sophie's shoes. I took a deep, steadying breath, the smell of pine filling my lungs. This was the moment, the structure I had spent 12 years building brick by block, during which I had done nothing but exist. I placed Thomas's phone on the glass coffee table, a precise, dead sound that instantly killed the lingering laughter. I raised my own hands, bare, devoid of any jewelry that might tie me to the past or the future. I just spoke, softly, my voice barely audible above the fire's crackle. "Before you post it, check your phones." The silence that followed was absolute, thicker than the snow, colder than Olivia's emerald. They all looked at me. James, first, his smile dissolving into a slight furrow of irritation. Henry, whose eyes had shifted from a misty melancholy to a sudden, terrified alertness. It was protocol, the scheme I had meticulously devised from a dreary London flat, after exhausting every legal avenue and finally locating the hidden archives. I had initiated an AirDrop routine to their devices via their home Wi-Fi network, ensuring that every single one of them would receive the identical file on their personal device. A second later, the sound came. The cold blue bing of the AirDrop notification, simultaneous on 5 separate phones. The room was bathed in the pale glow of screens lighting up, demanding, "Accept file from Evelyn Chase?" I saw James scowl. He picked up his phone. Olivia took hers, already half annoyed. Sophie, always the gentlest, hesitated. I took a step back, securing my clear exit path to the door. My revenge was not suicide. It was demolition. The file name, I said, my eyes locked on James. It's called report.pdf. Accept it. You'll find it quite interesting. Olivia was the first to accept. The sound she made was not a scream, but a sharp gasp of revulsion and shock. She read. I knew what she was reading. The first page, dated July 17th, 2013, at 11:34 p.m. The time of the incident, the name of the patrol officer, and the paragraph that had been scrubbed from the public record, the vehicle description, the black sedan registered to James Walker. Henry, meanwhile, had begun to shake. He didn't even need to open the file. He had recognized the ghost in my eyes, the ghost that had haunted me for all these years. James, however, remained controlled. He opened the file. I watched the muscle in his jaw clench, then release. He was already in crisis management mode. What is this, Evelyn? His voice was low, dangerously level. He used my new name. He was trying to rationalize me, to shrink me back down to the person he believed me to be. It's the police report, I replied, the same unnatural sweetness in my voice. The original, the one that includes the patrolman's testimony about seeing Henry Mitchell trying to cover the passenger seat with a coat. The one that includes the trace blood alcohol levels, before they conveniently vanished from the evidence chain. It is everything you buried, James. Everything you covered up 12 years ago. Olivia dropped her phone. The sound of tempered glass hitting the thick rug was dull, but heavy with meaning. Who are you? Sophie whispered. She looked at me, but she saw someone else. She saw the shadow of another time. You're not Evelyn. I looked at Sophie. She had been my best friend. She had been the only one to call me after Amelia's funeral, the only one to cry with me, before her father pulled her away. She knew nothing. This was James's secret, not hers. That was the only reason she was still my target. She loved her father, and I had to destroy what she loved. I am Chloe, I said. The name sounded wrong in the elegant room, like a vulgarity. I am the little sister of the yellow bike. James gave a dry, humorless laugh. You spent 12 years plotting this, Chloe? You cooked this up for all that time? What do you think this changes? It's old news. That report is worthless. It's not worthless, I said, a glacial smile stretching my lips. I sent it to 5 phones, James. 5, all on your network, using your own connection. And the family photo? That's already been uploaded and shared to all of Thomas's friends. It's stamped with the time of the AirDrop notification. I have everything I need to prove you received it today. The press is already on standby. The press part was a lie, but James had no way of knowing. He glared at the bay window, as if expecting a news helicopter to appear over his pristine lawn. The uncertainty. That was the one thing I could inflict upon him. I remembered my first year of college. Far from Boston, far from the smell of pine, in a small sterile room in Cambridge. The loneliness was so thick I couldn't breathe. I tried to continue, to study law, to become the person Amelia would have admired. But every line in the jurisprudence books was a mockery. The system I tried to join was the one that had betrayed me. I dropped out of law school, took a miserable job. I started working at a digital security consulting firm. That's where I learned patience. That's where I learned that people always leave a trace, even the powerful ones. I spent years tracking down old Cape Cod police contacts, scouring the digital archives of small towns. I found the name of the officer who had been given an early retirement just after the case closed. I spent 6 months earning his trust, buying him bourbon, and listening to him talk about his family. And one evening, he gave me access to an encrypted external drive. The file was there, the real report, James Walker's signature on the waiver, promising to pay the officer's expenses for services rendered. It wasn't just a cover-up, it was a purchase, a transaction. When I had the file, I didn't cry. I just felt a coldness creep up from my feet, a complete anesthesia. I was no longer Chloe Turner. I was a mechanism. I used the Walker firm's need for new blood to infiltrate. I feigned interest in James's company, presenting myself as a brilliant young consultant from London. He took the bait. He needed to feel important, to attract the elite. It was easy. He never looked into my past. Why would he? People like him don't believe history repeats itself. Henry, in turn, looked at me. He took a staggering step toward me. His hands were clenched. "You hate me." "I don't hate you, Henry," I said honestly. Hatred was too warm an emotion. "I despise you, because you let your uncle buy your silence. You let your sorrow turn into cowardice. You let Amelia become a number in James's ledger." James, though, regained control. He put his phone away, tucking it into the inside pocket of his jacket. "This is an attempted shakedown," he stated, his voice returning to the practiced CEO tone. "And you will regret it. I will crush you, Chloe. I will wipe you out." "Try," I challenged him, "but it's not extortion. Extortion is asking for money. I don't want money. I only want this lie you call family to be reduced to ash." Olivia interjected. Her face was white, but her fury caught up with her. "She's a maniac! James, call the police. Tell them she's harassing us." "It's not extortion," I repeated, addressing Olivia directly. I looked at the emerald ring. "It's the truth, Olivia. The one thing your husband's money can't buy." Sophie finally finished reading the document. Her hand flew to her mouth. Her eyes, when she looked up, were filled with agonizing confusion. She looked at her father. The devastation. It was the deepest cut for me, and I savored it with a chilling sense of dread. "Dad," she whispered, is this real?" James couldn't lie to her. He couldn't look at her anymore. He looked past her, toward me. He was trapped by his own image. "It was an accident, Sophie," he said. "I protected your cousin. I protected our name. That's what family does." I took a step toward the doorway. "No, James, that's not what family does. That's what a criminal does when he tries to buy salvation." He blocked my path. He was taller than me, heavier, his rage finally visible in his reddened face. "You're not walking out of here. You will delete that file, or I swear I will make you regret the day you were born." I raised my hand to touch the locket I wore beneath my sweater. I hadn't taken it off in 12 years. It was Amelia's, a small silver medallion with a photo of her smiling. "You already did that, James," I said, my voice cracking for the first time. But there was no sadness, only hardened steel. "You already made me one of the living dead. I am not afraid of you anymore." I backed away a single step, retreating from his aura of assumed power. I looked at Henry. He was tearing up. Henry had driven. Henry had been drinking. But James had engineered the forgetting. "Henry," I said, a clear, cold call. "Do you remember the scarf?" It was a question that only two people in that room could possibly understand. Henry went utterly pale. The fear left him, replaced by a profound, sinking horror. Flashback, the biting chill of the garage. Henry hadn't just been driving, he hadn't been alone. I was in the car, I was 18, I was in the passenger seat, arguing with Henry, a stupid, drunken flirtation. It was me who, reaching over to playfully grab the wheel, had caused the car to swerve into the darkness. It was my idiotic act that had shattered Amelia's life. When James arrived, he saw the truth. He saw a drunken Henry. He saw me, in shock, my hands physically clean of the blood. He saw the full truth, a double tragedy that would swallow both of our families. But James Walker didn't just save Henry. He saved me, Chloe Turner, his daughter's friend. He pulled me aside. "You saw nothing, Chloe," he had said. "But if you say a word, you're guilty of involuntary manslaughter. Your sister died because of you." He had taken Amelia's scarf, the one she always wore. He placed it carefully on the road, away from the bicycle, closer to the sedan. He had manufactured a narrative, the scarf caught in the wheel well, a failure of the deceased. "I'm giving you a chance," James had told me, "a chance to live without being a murderer. You leave, you stay silent, and I handle the rest." I will make your sister innocent, and you will be free. I had accepted. I was a coward. I was paralyzed by guilt. I took the freedom he offered at the cost of my silence, turning it into a slow-burn bomb on my conscience. I hadn't pursued vengeance for 12 years. I had sought a confession. I sought the moment where I could tell the truth, not to the world, but to James, so he would understand that the secret he bought to save me had made me worse than a killer. He had turned me into a ghost, incapable of mourning my sister honestly. My obsession was not to punish him, but to make him break over the truth he had forced me to bear. Return to the present. James looked at me, and for the first time I saw it. Fear. The fear of the man who never worried about the law, but who now feared the truth he had sealed inside me. He took a step toward me. I backed away. My duty was done. The airdrop I sent, I whispered, my eyes focused on the locket beneath my sweater. That wasn't the report. That was a one-line text message, a single word, sent from Thomas's phone to yours. She knows. The real report I had sent to the police before I ever arrived at Chestnut Hill. I couldn't trust an airdrop file. I couldn't trust my own moment of weakness. I didn't need to explain further. James understood. The blood drained from his face, leaving an ashen canvas. He realized the file wasn't the weapon. It was the decoy. The weapon was my silence, broken at the most public moment, amidst his family, who would soon read the actual headlines. "I'm sorry, James," I said, utterly devoid of regret. But my little sister deserved a killer, and one silence can't buy another silence. I turned and walked toward the door. The sound behind me wasn't a scream, but the definitive crash of glass. James's scotch glass slipping from his grasp, striking the coffee table and shattering into 1,000 pieces. The sound of perfect stillness broken. If you made it to the end, then you're exactly the kind of soul who understands that confessions are never endings. They are only ever beginnings. Like, and subscribe, before the next truth finds you first.